Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and welcome back to Wham Talk 1600's Operating Theater. It's the only OR in all of talk radio. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting live from our ancillary bunker, Lincoln Freedom Bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here for you for live, as I mentioned, 2 to 5 Eastern every Sunday. But it doesn't start and stop on Sundays from 2 to 5 Eastern. We are available with extra shows, extra content, extra guests, extra analysis, archives to all of our shows at davejanda.com 24/7. The Freedom Light is always on for you. We hope you'll support this platform for a mere $9 a month for priceless, the most in-depth information on the internet. You can be a member of our subscription family and have access to all the above, what I just mentioned. Now, we have a tremendous amount of free information, public information on the site as well. You see, the key, folks, to defeating the syndicate is to be empowered. Empowered with truth and data and facts so that you can put yourself ahead of the freedom-stripping agenda that ends in a brick wall that has been constructed by the globalist cult. They have targeted your freedoms, your liberty, your future, our constitutional republic, and frankly, and this is not hyperbole, in your life. Just look at what's happened over the past 3 years if you don't think they've targeted your life. What did Rand Paul say a day ago? That Fauci alone is responsible for at least 7 million deaths around the world. Underline the word at least. Yeah, I actually think that's a gross underestimate, along with his globalist cult cabal throughout government. In the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, our intelligence agencies, the Defense Department, all were involved in the development of the bioweapon, release of the bioweapon, and then their jab that was based on the active ingredient in their bioweapon, that being the spike protein. That's conspiracy theory. No. It might be conspiracy, but it's conspiracy reality. And that's what we deal with here, reality. Every week in our operating room, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our community, and our country, and we bring to our operating room, and today is no different. Information and guests the bought-off lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit in their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda, or because, folks, they're petrified. They are petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know, and that is what we provide. What you need to know. It's about your political, your economic, your financial, and your health care freedom. That is what this platform has been about since the first broadcast of Operation Freedom at Wham Talk 1600 and at the end of October of 2010. And it will continue to be for hopefully many years to come. This platform is targeted 24/7 by the globalist cult. Why? because we put you ahead of that curve that I spoke about earlier. And one of the topics we have focused on since the outset of Operation Freedom is your financial and economic freedom. You see, if they can destroy you financially and our country economically and the world economically, guess what? You become an easier victim for them to control. It's all about control. And this is why we have focused a significant amount of our time and efforts on your economic, financial freedom. My first guest has dedicated her life to that, and the company she's associated with, the Camino Company, to creating a financial lifeboat for this sea of chaos that the globalist cult have created. And if you think the sea has been stormy lately and rough, wait, it's about to get a lot worse. How do we know that? All you have to do is look behind the numbers, the bogus numbers that they try to con you with, of what's really going on. Adriana Reed has been with the Camino Company since 2011 as a trader, and she is one of the principals in the Camino Company and is one of the most knowledgeable and honest people in the precious metals arena. And as I mentioned, the Camino Company has constructed a lifeboat for you and your economic and financial freedom. It's my honor to welcome back to our platform our good friend Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back.
Thanks again, Dave.
Okay, Adriana, we were told for many months by the globalist cult syndicate, whether it was Jerome Powell, Janet Yellen, the current Secretary of the Treasury, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, that the inflationary environment that you're starting to experience, they were saying this many months ago, is only transitory. Don't worry about it. Adriana, you called them out on this a year and a half ago, saying, whoa, this is not transitory. And a way to ensure your financial and economic well-being is what has worked in the past and will work in the present and work in the future as insurance of precious metals. So here we are, Adriana. And now they're saying, well, actually, inflation isn't transitory. It's going to be here for a significant period. Adriana, educate our listeners on where you see our economy and what you see happening over the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, definitely. So, in my personal experience with economics, I think we're only on the tip of the iceberg for the economy right now, in my personal opinion. For the past year, they've spent this time denying that we're in a recession as it is. We have a government that is very adamant about redefining terms that have been around for years and years to keep structure. What we're experiencing right now is we started a recession already, and one that's probably going to get worse, and could potentially reach a depression if they're not careful with how they maneuver through this. What I saw in 2020, when you print money, it's not rocket science. Inflation is always going to follow. The amount of money that was printed in 2020 and 2021, and as the Biden administration also continues to print money with our tax dollars going over to Ukraine, and all of the money that's leaving the country, it's not even taking care of Americans as it is. We're still printing money to pass these things. And then you also have the potential of, college loans being forgiven, which I don't particularly agree with. You have all of these things going on where money it seems like it grows on trees, but it doesn't. The Federal Reserve just prints it. So inevitably, you have the situation that we're in where inflation is actually never transitory. In my opinion, that was such a misnomer to send to the American people. What they sent us into was stagflation. You know that as we continue to print money the way that we do, that inflation is going to always increase, and the percentage that they let it get out of control with. They put the CPI at 8.1%. You and I have talked about it. It's at least double. You and I are on the ground, and you just have to go to a grocery store. That's all you have to do, and your bill is going to be 16 to 20% higher than it was pre-2020. So, in my opinion, I think what we're experiencing right now with the incompetency that we have in the White House and the administration that's running our country, then you have them working with the Federal Reserve, that they are setting us up for failure, and preparation right now is absolutely critical, as the storm is going to probably get a lot worse into 2023.
Adriana, several years ago, you identified the Federal Reserve, which is not part of the federal government, much to the surprise of some people, hopefully very few of our listeners who've been educated on this for, at a minimum, the past 12 years through our show. In fact, they're not part of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch. They're a group of independent bankers that got control of our money supply thanks to Woodrow Wilson and Congress back in 1913. Adriana, you targeted the Fed as this in the past and do today as targeting them as the source of the stagflationary environment we're in because of their unending ability of printing dollars. I want to play a clip from former chairman of the Fed, Ben Bernanke, who was on 60 Minutes and said the following, and I want your reaction. Derek, hit it.
It's not tax money. The banks have accounts with the Fed much the same way that you have an account in a commercial bank. So to lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed. So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been printing money.
Well, effectively, and we need to do that because our economy is very weak and inflation is very low.
And now? That's when they were talking, it's just going to be transitory. It's going to be low. It's not. Oh, no. Because now we are in a stagflation environment. And in fact, Adriana, you pointed this out many months ago. You got a lot of heat for saying, no, Adriana's wrong. Nice person, but wrong. We're not in stagflation. In fact, we are in a stagnating inflationary economy that's even worse than it was under Jimmy Carter in the late 1970s.
Oh, without a doubt, Dave. The problem you also have is that we've added so much debt over the years that we're experiencing right now with the inflation increasing the way it is. I think we're experiencing it from the 1970s. It's kind of, I hate to use this term, but it's the 70s on crack. It's even worse because it's delusional at this point. So you're dealing with people that are not handling the situation correctly. Now, when you talk about the Federal Reserve in the general sense of things, the main issue that you have is they have no accountability. That's the biggest problem that I have. If they can add 87,000 IRS agents that need to be armed for some reason to come knock on our doors, they should actually knock on the Federal Reserve door because they're the ones who are breaking more laws than you and I as far as how they're handling this. Now, if they keep printing money and it's not backed by anything, then you have the experience that we're experiencing, where you're experiencing extreme inflationary periods. You do have people that are not going back to work by choice in the United States, which is not particularly my style. I believe in hard work is the only thing that gets you through life. And, you have an economy that is incredibly fragile. If you look at the rate that they have to change the interest numbers and they're balancing an economy with inflation, it's a very, very terrible place to be in my opinion.
So let's talk about how people can protect themselves, because this is critical at this juncture. It has been for years, but in particularly now and moving into the future, because I believe we are moving into a very, very unstable situation financially and economically around our country and around the world. And in particular, what in the past has done extremely well in these times of chaos in economic and financial markets has been precious metals. Educate our listeners, because most people today, to this date, Adriana, I get emails about this every week, are told by their stockbrokers and their bond brokers, just stay in paper assets, precious metals, gold and silver. The physical variety, they're hard to buy. If you're going to buy precious metals, just stick with paper contracts. Adriana, educate our listeners on just the paper price of gold and silver and the physical price, and educate our listeners on the ease in which an honest transaction can occur with physical precious metals that Camino has been on the landscape doing for the past 30 some years.
Yeah, absolutely. So the contracts versus physicals. There's a couple of things that need to be addressed in this category. Number one, paper contracts. If I were asked to do a margin call and have all physical precious metals delivered on those contracts, it would send chaos into the world, because I don't believe that they can deliver on the physicals. I believe that the contracts are used to manipulate our markets to keep them as low as they are currently at this time, as they flood it with paper contracts. Paper contracts, to me, are not safe. You might as well be in fiat currency if you're going to be in paper contracts, in my personal opinion. Physicals are the way to go. The reason I believe this is because if you have a home, you own it, it's yours. If you have physical precious metals, you own them. They're yours. They belong to you. And you have the guarantee of that physical delivery. So you know that you're backed by something, and which is exactly what we do. When we send you physicals, we're backing your currency with something, and protecting you from how much worse this is going to get. Metals have a long history, and I'm talking about thousands of years. I'm not even talking hundreds of years of outperforming any currency that's ever been created.
So educate our listeners, Adriana, on where we are right now with the premiums for physical versus paper, and where we are with the supply and availability of gold and silver, because there's a lot of talk about significant shortages across the board of gold and silver.
Yeah, so I believe that to be true. On the silver side of things, gold, we're delivering very quickly. So if you buy gold, we're pretty much set to go. Premiums, we're working our best to keep premiums as low as possible. And I will say we've brought them down as much as we can, but they are still higher than we've seen in the past. American Gold Eagles, American Buffaloes are going to be running the highest of the premiums, and you're looking at that at over 8%, versus if you were to go with like Australian Kangaroos or Canadian Maple Leafs, something of that sort, you're looking in the 4 to 5% range for purchase power. As far as silver goes, I think silver is a very interesting metal right now. I mean, its potential is out the roof. As you know, in 2009 and 10, silver hit $40 to $50 an ounce, and its current ratio with gold is extremely off. So I think it has tons of potential, as we also know that silver is now going to be used as an industrial metal much more, because it can do a lot of things at a much cheaper price. So that'll be very interesting to see how it acts in the next couple of years. But as far as getting silver out, there are some items that are running a little bit of a delay, but just check in. I always believe, especially with the way things are going and the talk of putting us on a potential digital currency, I do always recommend having some smaller silver items, talking about 1 ounce coins, that you could potentially use to protect yourself from them having every single transaction that you do on their books. And, if they do add social credit scores to the United States, which I pray to God that they don't, that you would be prepared for that too.
And what about availability of silver? Many people have told me that when they look across the world about silver availability, we have a number of listeners actually. We have actually listeners in over 120 countries worldwide every week on this broadcast. I get a lot of feedback from folks around the world, not just in our country, saying, I'm trying to buy silver, and boy, it's hard to get.
There are some items that are more difficult to get than others, but for the most part, at Camino, we've worked pretty much ahead of the curve to make sure that we have all items available as quickly as possible until we have to just keep refilling with manufacturers. So we've been doing okay, to be honest. But like I said, just check in on specific items to check delivery times. I think at most right now we're about 2.5 weeks out on one or two items, to be honest. But other than that, I think we are pretty set over here.
And what about premiums?
Premiums on silver are still high, but they have come down a little bit. And like I said, we work our best to keep our margins as small as possible so that you could benefit the most from our pricing. I think we do have some of the best pricing in the country. And but I will say they are still high, relatively speaking, in my 15 years of experience at Camino.
So we had this headline this week, Adriana. China said to be the mystery buyer stockpiling gold and silver to cut their dollar dependence. What are we to make of that?
I think that this has been a long time coming. China's moves and the moves that they've been taking against the United States have been over years. I want people to understand that communism infiltrates a country over time. It's a different type of war. And what China is doing is they are moving more methodically to attack the United States and the dollar. As we know, they've been trying to set up the petro yuan. They're also trying to separate themselves from the dollar as we speak. And it can be very, very dangerous if the dollar is not king because it's not backed by anything. The empire could fall when it comes to the dollar. So, their moves can be very harmful to our country. And, one of the things we need to do as a country is we need to be much more independent and reliant on ourselves and our own manufacturing, our own dollar, the strength of the dollar. We need to back our currency. And I hope that one day we get back to that. But China's moves are very critical, actually, in our own well-being, unfortunately.
Folks, we're speaking with Adriana Reed from the Camino Company, Camino, C-A-M-I-N-O, CaminoCompany.com. Adriana, educate our listeners on the process of buying physical gold and physical silver, because Camino makes it very transparent and very accountable as far as how the purchases occur. And this is very important because if some folks decide, oh, well, my Uncle Louie owns a precious metals store, coins, so I'm going to go through Uncle Louie. Oh, okay. Well, best of luck with Uncle Louie. But educate our listeners on the process, because if they start dealing with Uncle Louie and they need to know how things are done from a transparent standpoint, what Camino is all about. And if they get involved with somebody else, they need to know, wait a minute, there's a problem here.
Absolutely. So you can place an order with us. We're open Monday through Friday, Pacific Standard Time, 9 to 4:30. You can also head over to our website. We do have an online store where all of our prices are transparent. There's a couple of things. Number one, our website, we have very specific items that we don't carry a ton of different items. The reason being is we don't want you to pay high prices to find out later that item is not as valuable as you once thought it was. All of the things that we sell are going to carry great value through time, and that's the key when you're buying precious metals. That's number one. Number two, we'll work with you on any amount that you have to spend. There's no little, there's no big. We can take care of everybody. And we always want to take care of everybody in their best interest. You can speak to any of the traders. We don't work on commission. We're actually a family business. So you're either going to speak to my mother or my husband if you do a trade. It's the three of us against the world here, and my dad's part of it too, but he doesn't do trades. So talk to any of us. We don't work on commission. When you place the order, we'll go over what works best for what you have. If you need, your storage limited, if you have a specific amount of money you need to spend, if you want gold, if you want silver, if you want both, we'll go over all of that with you if you speak to the traders specifically. You can also, like I said, place the order online. And there's also something that I would like to add is one of the things that I think that Camino is very good at is we have very limited contact with our clientele. And I think it is something that I value, and I would like our customers to value too, is that when we don't speak to our customers a lot, it's for your privacy and your protection. Being that I'm a libertarian myself, you can ask Hillary about emails. Emails going back and forth, they can always be found. So we keep our contact very limited so that it protects you, especially if you're going to store the metals at home or if you're going to put them in a facility. The the less others know, the better off I believe you to be.